Hi, so my name is Kelsey, and I want to talk today about ultrasounds and the Doppler and why I chose to refuse them during pregnancy. So, I have compiled a list of studies and articles that I found to be super helpful when I was searching for this information, and I'm going to share them down in the description and I'm going to pin them to the top comment and that kind of thing. So, please share them with any pregnant women that you know or anyone who you think might benefit from this. Even if you're thinking about having babies, it's just good to know this information. And the thing is that it's just not really being talked about right now or ever. you know we have been fed this narrative and just so programmed to think that ultrasounds and the Doppler, that they're perfectly safe and that there's no harm and there's barely any risk, and that's just not the truth. There are harmful effects, and there is huge risk in using these technologies on pregnant ladies. So, you know, let's start with, how do ultrasounds work? So, what is an ultrasound? So, ultrasounds beam cyclical, high frequency sound waves, and these sound waves act as a form of echolocation to create an image of the baby or the babies. Now, these sound waves, they are inaudible to us. However, the baby does hear them and sense them. We can see from videos of ultrasounds that are being done and from speaking with women who have had ultrasounds done that the baby, for the most part, is squirming away from these sound waves and that it is uncomfortable and it's doing everything it can to escape. And just right off the bat, we are disturbing the baby in its sacred space here. So I will also start by saying that ultrasounds and the Doppler have been scientifically proven to cause and or worsen the symptoms of autism, ADHD, allergies, asthma, non-genetic left-handedness, childhood cancers such as leukemia, uh, contribute to low birth weight, and even cause miscarriage and death. And that list is not conclusive. There are many more things to add to that list, but that's just a start. And you're going to find a lot more information in the studies that I'm sharing with you. So, how do these sound waves actually affect the baby negatively? So first of all, these sound waves, they are absorbed into the baby's body as heat. And the baby is not able to sweat like we are. It's not able to regulate its body temperature in the same way that we are. And that's why you might have heard of it being inadvisable for a pregnant woman to use like a hot tub or a sauna or even have a bath that is too hot. And that is why, because we need to moderate our temperature to help regulate the baby's temperature. So the heat. So when the baby gets too hot, it has a built-in mechanism in every single cell that when it reaches a certain threshold, that normal cell production stops, that normal enzyme production stops, that it starts to create proteins that are misshapen, and thereby they will be ineffective. And they're just ineffective. So where this heat really becomes a concern is in the bones, and in particular the skull, and in the brain tissues. So once we get to the second trimester, and absolutely from third trimester on, it has been documented that baby's skull heats up 50 times faster than the surrounding tissues. So what that means is that even after that heat source has been removed, the surrounding tissues are still being radiated by the skull and the brain tissues in particular long after that heat source is removed. Now, there is a threshold of safety that the baby can withstand. There's a little bit of heat that can be introduced until these mechanisms turn on to shut down normal cell production. However, this threshold is very easy to go past. And it's very hard for the person who is using these technologies to know just how much heat is being created in this particular baby at this moment. So something worth noting as well is that the FDA in 1993 approved an 8-fold increase in the upper limit of how much frequency can be administered. And a lot of the studies that we have that are showing all of these harmful effects, they were done prior to this 8-fold increase. So we can only imagine what all the numbers look like now. And what's interesting is that since 1993, the rates of autism have gone up over 60-fold. Now, with things like autism, there's obviously so many factors at play, but this is a piece of the puzzle, and it can't be overlooked. It's part of everything. So, something else that these sound waves do is they can cause what is called cavitation. And that is where these little gas bubbles can be created. These little gas bubbles can be created, and if they erupt, they emit a huge amount of heat and create a huge amount of damage. So I will read a statement from the World Health Organization that states that ultrasound cavitation can create powerful shock waves far above the speed of sound. It can create cavitational bubble collapse temperatures of thousands of degrees. So when have we been taught this? When have we been told, before going into an ultrasound? I mean, I didn't have any, but, how many women have been told before they've gone into their ultrasound all of that information? Probably very little, very rare, very rare. So I just think it's time to bring this information to light. So that brings us to the Doppler. So the Doppler uses ultrasonic frequencies, but instead of sending cyclical frequencies, it sends a continuous stream of the ultrasound. So thereby generating much more heat and thereby causing much more damage to the growing baby. Now, the thing with the Doppler as well is that they want to use the Doppler at every single appointment. Whereas the ultrasound, a regular healthy pregnancy, a woman might receive, we'll just say between 3 to 6 on average, 3 to 6 ultrasounds in a regular healthy pregnancy. Whereas with the Doppler, again, they want to use it at every single appointment. And they want to use it when a woman goes into labor, consistently every hour, then every 15 minutes. And then that increment gets tighter the closer that she gets to giving birth. So, and then you have seen in the hospitals, the women who are connected to these monitors, and that's what they're receiving. They're receiving the Doppler frequencies to check the baby's heartbeat. So again, so much is going on without women knowing. And that's why I'm so grateful to see so many women taking responsibility and doing their due diligence and learning about these things instead of just saying yes to these procedures that have been, again, so ingrained in our minds and in our subconscious. So these procedures have been so ingrained into us from movies, from media, from doctors, from parents, from school, you name it. We've been taught that they're totally safe and that there's barely any risk and that it's just part of being pregnant. We've really linked the two together. And how iconic is that ultrasound photo, right? You hold it up, you announce your pregnancy. It's become a symbol in our subconscious. So I'm really grateful that we're moving away from that and we're separating the two and we're really asking ourselves, this, along with lots of other of the routine procedures, potentially all of them, a lot of them are unnecessary and a lot of them cause harm. So are they necessary? And that's what we can ask ourselves with the Doppler and the ultrasound. Are they necessary? A study was done that scientifically proved that ultrasounds and Dopplers, they don't improve the birth outcome. And I think that is so important to tell women, because we really think that, okay, if I get these ultrasounds, if I get these tests, I have a better chance of knowing that everything's okay with my baby, when it has been scientifically documented that it does not improve the outcome. And if you are familiar with APGAR scores, they don't improve the APGAR scores either. So there's a lot of risk involved and very little gain. And I'll get into, what we quote unquote gain from these ultrasounds in just a minute. I want to read a couple of studies and I want to drink some tea. So a study, and I'm going to link all of these, of course. So a study of 9,000 women divided into two groups. So the first group of women received a routine ultrasound between 16 to 20 weeks. The second group did not receive any ultrasounds between 16 to 20 weeks. The first group who received ultrasounds, there were 16 miscarriages. And the second group who did not receive any ultrasounds, there were 0 miscarriages. And something that is absolutely important about this study is that this was done prior to the 8-fold increase of frequency being administered to the baby. Okay, so another study that I pulled from Mama Natural's site, which she is linked down, or she's linked as well. A study in the UK done on healthy mothers and babies who received 2 or more Doppler scans to check the placenta had more than 2 times the risk of perinatal death compared to babies unexposed to the Doppler. And I will read a statement from the World Health Organization, which honestly, it's kind of funny because I laugh to myself and I think, why do we quote these people anyways? They obviously don't have our best interest at heart. And why are we using them as kind of like the baseline? But I guess this is for the people who are really starting to question the narrative and just maybe are still kind of putting their faith in the medical system and trusting their doctors when, you can see blatant statements like this that just show us that clearly there's a deeper agenda involved. Clearly there's monetary things involved, you name it, lots going on. So the World Health Organization goes on the record to say, it is fair to say that at the moment, the best research shows no benefit from routine ultrasound scanning and the real possibility of serious risk. We urge you to reconsider all present policy with regard to routine ultrasound scanning during pregnancy based on these important scientific papers. So from the World Health Organization itself. So with all of this, we ask ourselves, why do we get these done? Why, what are they looking for? What are our doctors and midwives, what are they looking for? So they're looking for several things. All the information that they are looking for is either unnecessary, and I truly mean unnecessary in that word, unnecessary, and or can be gathered using traditional midwifery practices. So they want to know the size of the baby to determine a more accurate due date. They want to know the gender, well, potentially. They want to know if there's any deformities. They want to hear the baby's heartbeat. That's mostly for the Doppler. And what else? Oh yeah, placenta previa, or a low-lying placenta. So starting with the due date, the way that our culture has really gravitated towards this magical arbitrary date that we have created and calculated from a woman's last period it's really flawed. And the thing with how they calculate these due dates with using a woman's last period is that they start day 1 of baby's gestation on day one of the mother's last period. So that means that when you get to the 40-week mark, the quote unquote due date, the baby has only been gestating for 38 weeks. It's not even full term yet. And so many babies are being induced prematurely, before they even have reached their 40-week mark, let alone have gone past. And so we cannot use these dates that we have just calculated. And then where it really becomes a problem is that once we reach that magical date, then all this pressure is put onto a woman to induce or to, get things moving and to really hurry along the process and to, get all these extra ultrasounds, I had to sign so many documents saying I don't want these extra ultrasounds, especially because I went over 40 weeks, the quote unquote due date. And it's unnecessary, and we don't want to put any undue stress on a mother, and we don't need to hurry the process. The bottom line is that the baby is going to come when the baby is going to come, when it's good and ready, and we don't need to intervene, and we don't need to rush it, and we don't need to interfere with that process at all. So we don't need an ultrasound to get a more accurate quote unquote due date that is arbitrary, random, unnecessary, and not anything we need. So the gender. Guys, I 1000% highly recommend do not find out your gender. It is the best surprise you will ever receive in your life. It is so much fun, like a level of fun that really is indescribable, a level of fun that is so different than fun in your day-to-day life. And I just feel like there aren't very many mysteries these days. We really want to classify and label and quantify everything. And this was the best mystery ever. Like, it was amazing. And yeah, pretty much hard to describe. So I highly recommend not finding out, and that is definitely an unnecessary use for an ultrasound. And I guess I just found out, which kind of takes the fun out of it, but I just found out that you can actually get these over the counter pee tests that at 7 weeks you can find out the gender, which I highly recommend you don't go and get. It's so much fun, you guys. It's so much fun. Okay, and what else? Okay, so placenta previa. So placenta previa, or a low-lying placenta, that is when the placenta has the possibility of blocking the baby's descent into the birth canal. Now, the thing with placenta previa is that it can show up during pregnancy, and it can show up on the ultrasounds. But the thing is that most cases resolve themselves before a woman gives birth. And again, in most cases of placenta previa, it will very rarely show up asymptomatically. So one of the symptoms of placenta previa is bleeding. And so if you are receiving any kind of symptoms that are not quote unquote normal, that go beyond a normal pregnancy, then you need to make a decision based on your unique situation on how you want to handle that. So the thing is we don't need to give everybody an ultrasound because of the possibility of placenta previa. We just need to screen out the women who are higher risk, who are coming in with pre-existing health conditions, who are showing symptoms, that kind of thing. So in my personal opinion, I would only get an ultrasound in a very specific, unique situation. So yes, okay, so yeah, so the thing is that again, if we give the woman this information that she has a low-lying placenta at, say, like the 20-week scan, it's just unnecessary information, and it could put undue stress on her when, it will most likely resolve itself before she gives birth. So unnecessary. So genetic, or not genetic, deformities. So that's one of the reasons that people use ultrasounds, is to find out if there's any deformities with the baby. And in my opinion, we don't need to know this information until after the baby is born, just as we would have before ultrasounds came into our lives. You find out that information after the baby's born, and then you, from that moment, make a plan to deal with it. And I just think again, it's unnecessary information, and the thing with deformities is that a lot of times these technicians who are doing these scans, they make mistakes, and it's hard to see what's going on in the womb. And I had a dear friend who refused all ultrasounds during her pregnancy, and then right at the end, she was pressured into getting an ultrasound, and the technician couldn't find one of baby's arms. So she's days away from giving birth, and she was told, your baby is most likely going to be born with one arm. And of course, my friend is going to love this baby regardless. That's not what it's about. It's just more that, again, she's about to give birth, and now she has this stress of trying to plan her life with this baby with one arm. And it's so unnecessary and just so fascinating. So these mistakes happen. They happen actually more often than we think. And of course, baby was born with two beautiful, healthy arms, and is so healthy and is awesome. So I totally understand the reasoning behind us wanting to check in on our baby. It's, of course, it's natural. It's a natural instinct, and it's part of actually what makes us good mothers, is wanting to know. We want to know everything's going okay. But given this information, that these tests don't improve the outcomes, that they do cause harm, that there are huge risks involved, when you become a parent, the question is no longer, what do I want? It's more, what is best for the baby? So I have a lot of compassion for women who do want to use these tests to check on their baby physically, or to see their baby physically and connect with them in that way. Because when I was first pregnant, I felt amazing. I didn't feel pregnant. Didn't have the belly yet, and there was this part of me that really doubted that I was pregnant. And I was like, it would be nice to go and see my baby and connect with them in this way. But I just knew that because I had found out this information, I knew that it wasn't the right thing to do, that it was me who wanted the ultrasound and that the baby really felt fine. I felt great. I didn't need it. So that's part of being a parent is we have to ask ourselves, is this necessary? Am I getting this ultrasound because I'm feeling like insecure about being pregnant, or am I just wanting that photo, the photo, which, like, these are all natural things. It's not to judge, but it's part of becoming a parent is asking ourselves again, what's best for the baby? What, you are responsible for this other life. Your health and your well-being is your responsibility, and this baby's health and well-being is your responsibility too. And that's deeply empowering. And it's a lot, it's intimidating, but it's also, again, deeply empowering. And something else to note is that in life and in pregnancy, in every situation, everything is always a choice. You are always consenting to something. So remember that, you're never forced to do anything. You always have the right to say no, and whatever that looks like. And, standing up for what you know is right is the best thing that you can do and is so rewarding and it's so worth it. And I promise you, you will reap the rewards of that and you'll be so grateful that you did. I really am grateful that I said no. And I felt intimidated. It's so funny to look back because I wouldn't put up with what I did back then, and it's hilarious. And that's how it does. This is how the magic works, right? This is how sitting through the fire we come out changed. And I'm so grateful that I said no. There was a part of me that's like, should I just get an ultrasound so that these midwives, so I can work with these midwives? And I'm so grateful that I said no. It's so worth it. Just like not finding out the gender, it's so worth it. So yeah, may we sit in the fire that is pregnancy and birth. May we become the wisdom keepers. May we sit in circle, one day with our daughters and our sons and our family and our community, and, pass on our wisdom that we worked hard for, that we earned. And it's a really exciting time. And I'm so grateful to see just such an awakening and such a big love for natural birth, and we're really seeing the importance of all of these things. And this is just one piece of a bigger puzzle, like I kind of mentioned earlier, and so I also think that this information is very important. So again, please share those links with pregnant women. How many people think that these things are just so safe and so beneficial and so helpful and the key to our pregnancy, the key to knowing what is going on with baby, when really, that, like, us looking into the womb unnecessarily is like keeping us blind to our spiritual eye, keeping us from, having to go within and actually activating that innate wisdom that is in everyone, every woman, everyone born into a human body right now. So with that, thank you so much for listening, and I pray all the best for you wherever you are in your journey, whatever it looks like for you. And let me know if you have any questions. And again, I'm going to link all of the studies. If you can't copy and paste them, I think you'll be able to on a computer, but if you can't copy and paste them and you want to read them, comment and I will send them to you personally. So again, thanks so much for listening, and bless you wherever you are.